What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Pure Evil MMA. Oh, wait, hold on. I got something special here.
What?
It's not Pure Evil MMA. It's Evil and Intoxicated for all you OG MMA fans out there. We got Ted Czech in the building. What's going on, Ted?
Hey, Eddie. How you doing, man? Great to be here.
Doing good. You know what? December's come around. We've been doing this show. Let me throw something out there for you real.
All right.
We're going to be covering some crazy MMA news today. We got some MMA history. We have done this, Ted. I'm going to throw a little stat out there for you.
Okay.
I don't think you're ready for it. 9 years ago this week, Conor McGregor stopped Jose Aldo's 10-year unbeaten streak in 13 seconds. That was 9 years ago.
9 years ago. Wow. Man, that's crazy. I mean, just Conor's career now, I don't know what the hell's going on with him now, but I still think back to, you mentioned that, the Jose Aldo fight. The lead up to that fight was nothing short of genius. The way that he manipulated and stalked and just totally mind-effed Jose Aldo. Every time they had any type of appearance together, Conor had one move, and he was like playing 3D chess. He was 10 moves ahead of the guy and just totally had his mind all screwed up. Even, prior to the way ahead of the fight. And then the fight was just a masterclass. I mean, it was over before you knew it.
The thing, here's the crazy thing. Let me paint a picture for everyone. You did a really good job right there.
Thank you.
Craziest thing, Marcus Brimage on Conor McGregor's debut, right? Marcus Brimage was like undefeated, this upcoming guy. Conor McGregor, he was a double champ over at Cage Warriors, right? He comes over. He destroys him. He destroys his neck. Max Holloway, Dustin Poirier, Dennis Seaver. They tried pumping up Dennis Seaver as if Dennis Seaver was this guy who was going to stop Conor McGregor in his tracks. You know what I mean?
Who?
Yeah. A lot of people have no idea who I'm talking about right now. You know what I mean? It's a masterclass, as you say, because Dana, who's the master chessman, as you're in the Ultimate Fighter Season 1, when he stopped everyone in their tracks, he said, this is the real deal. If you don't think you came here to I want you to go home right now. Dana White, he's one of the guys, hate him or love him, he is the face of the UFC, and without him, when they signed this billion-dollar deal, you're all worried, thinking Dana wasn't going to be there. Dana is the genius behind a lot of these things, right? Ultimate Fighter comes up, right? The build-up to Jose Aldo. It gets canceled. He fights Chad Mendes. Ted, what do they do for that one? Build up for that, Aaron Lewis. We're here on the East Coast, Ted. Aaron Lewis from Stained.
Right. Yeah.
For Chad Mendes. Who does, and may God rest her soul, Sinead O'Connor, who is another stamp in the face of everyone. Remember Saturday Night Live? That was Sinead O'Connor.
Oh God, who could forget that? Yeah, she had a photo of the Pope, and she tore it up. Yeah, I mean, very controversial at the time.
And I'll tell you what, Ted. Dana White, and we're gonna get into crazy news. Dana White says that he has crazy news for 2025 that is gonna get everyone out of their seats. But at the time for this, the build-up, Ultimate Fighter against Uriah Faber, the way they promoted this. He was ahead of Jose Aldo, who had 10 years unbeaten. You guys just saw UFC Tampa with Swanson defeating Billy Quarantino, right? Cub Swanson got a knee to the chin in about 8-9 seconds back in the day for, I think it was Strikeforce, flying knee right out the gate against Cub Swanson.
Strikeforce or WEC?
WEC. You got it, Ted. You got it, Ted.
Geez, pulled that one out.
WEC, GFL, Grandfather Fighting League. We're going to get into that too, just a little bit. But the way they promoted this, I did not think that Conor had what it took to beat Jose Aldo. I was like, this is the best fight I've ever been like a witness to.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to that, Ted, Chael Sonnen, Anderson Silva. Prior to that, Ted, Chuck Liddell versus
Oh, who are we talking about? Rampage, maybe?
Chuck well,
No, Tito.
Tito, Chuck Liddell and Tito. Right? Prior to that, Ted, Hoist Gracie, Ken Shamrock. Like these are the kind of things like
Oh,
you're like,
you're talking about monumental fights. You're talking about landmark fights.
yeah,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
this opened the gates, Ted. Before this happened, this is right around the time me and you started this about 10 years ago. 10 years ago,
Wow.
Ted.
Wow, that is crazy.
Right? This was one of those fights that you will never forget. And people can say
Mm-hmm.
whatever they want, but Conor McGregor, he was such a figure. And going in there against Jose Aldo, it was something of magic, right? Jon
Mm-hmm.
Jones, he was nowhere to be seen at the time. Now he's back in the picture. People are looking
Right.
at Conor like he's the bad guy here. But yeah, Ted, 10 years ago, we're also going to be 11 years ago. GSP relinquished his welterweight title against Johnny Hendricks. We're going to jump into that. Ted, 13 years ago, Frank Mir broke Antonio Nogueira's arm on TV. But also,
Oh,
Ted,
big nog.
this month in MMA, here's the big one.
All right. Lay it on me.
ESPN never showed MMA ever until this moment.
I'm sorry, you cut off there, Eddie. Showed what?
ESPN never showed a clip of mixed martial arts until this moment. Showtime Pettis does off the cage kick.
Oh, Showtime kick on Ben Henderson.
Benson Henderson, and
Yeah.
got the Wheaties box this month in mixed martial arts as we close it out. And we just had another crazy fight as well. Ted,
Eddie, I got a question for you though. If I could jump in.
yeah, jump. I was about to hand it over to you. Who
was the or two questions.
Okay.
You mentioned ESPN. Who was the first UFC fighter on the cover of the now defunct ESPN the magazine?
On the cover.
I mentioned him like a
Chuck
minute
Liddell.
ago.
Chuck
Yes,
Liddell.
yes. All right. How about who was the first UFC or MMA fighter on the front cover of Sports Illustrated?
Ronda Rousey or Showtime?
Roger Huerta.
No. Whoa. What's the history there?
Oh,
People
pulled
tuning
that out.
in.
Yeah, that's crazy, huh?
What's the
I mean,
history there for people who've never heard that name
You
before?
know, I mean, he was streaking at the time. Streaking. He was on a winning streak. He was winning
Babe,
fights. And
we're going streaking.
we're going streaking. Yeah. No. Yeah. So he was. He was hot at the time. Good looking kid, Hispanic. So he ticked off some boxes right there. And so he wound up on the front cover. Yeah, I'm not sure what he's doing these days. I hope he's doing well.
Swimsuit? He was in a swimsuit? Was he in a swimsuit like Ronda, or what?
No. It's just fighter cage picks, while fighting.
I
Those
got
kinds of
trivia for you too, Ted, and for the listeners out there. What was the first magazine published promoting Ultimate Fighting Championship? Or, excuse me, the Gracie Family Challenge, should I say?
Oh, well okay, you're going back a ways because they were doing that stuff in probably the early 80s. It's going to be something like Black Belt Magazine or Inside Kung Fu. Because I used to see, I'll tell you this, here's crazy. When I was a kid, like early 80s, late 70s, early 80s, I used to see, like a little ad like this big in the back of either Inside Kung Fu or Black Belt Magazine. And I couldn't pronounce it. I'm like, what is this Jiu-Jitsu stuff?
Jiu-Jitsu.
Jiu-Jitsu. Yeah. I was like, whoa, Jiu-Jitsu. That sounds pretty crazy. It may have been the Gracies that were, selling VHS tapes, on how to do stuff or whatever. But anyway, tell me, what magazine was it?
Ted, Playboy magazine
Really?
was the magazine that got UFC in the spotlight, right? For the Ultimate Fighting Championship, which set it up with, name him, with the fedora, Art D, the man himself.
Oh, okay.
Let me
Okay.
get a little more trivia. Let me dive a little deeper here. Yeah, take a sip. Take a sip. We're getting older here, Ted.
Yeah.
Ted.
Need the go juice.
Yeah. I need the
You got a
cough
blue
syrup.
moon.
Need the
You got
blue
a blue
moon.
moon there. Look
Ted,
at
let
you.
me go a little deeper. Before Dana White bought the UFC, went to the Fertitas, he escaped Boston, right? Because the man
Whitey
himself,
was after him.
run,
Whitey Bulger was after him.
Whitey Bulger was after him for $1,500. You know who almost bought the UFC?
Oh, so bought it off of Semaphore Entertainment Group.
You know who was thinking about it?
Oh, geez. Chuck Norris.
Sean McMahon, the son.
Oh, he should have.
McMahon.
Wait, Shane
McMahon. I went to broadcasting
Well,
school with the sister, Stephanie.
Did you really?
She went to the same broadcasting school I went to. Yeah. Yep.
Oh, wow. How about that?
Triple H's wife. And I had the biggest crush on her, man. The biggest crush. I'd walk into the school and there'd be this big photo of her and all the successful people. I said, I'm going to be on there one day. But I also stole the photo, went home.
You swiped the photo.
I did a little Playboy magazine hoist $100,000 challenge, 100,000 minute challenge, I'd call that. But you know what, Ted? There's a lot of MMA history today. Let's actually start. This is actually interesting for a lot of fans that are tuning in for some crazy news. Dana White, 2025, there's some crazy news. But back then, the crazy news that came out actually happened in December. Like I said, Showtime Pettis, that first time ever on ESPN, the highlight. I remember I was in high school. He ended up on the Wheaties box. I don't think people understand what a big deal that is. I have Wheatie boxes here from my grandfather, Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods. You know what I mean? They're collectibles.
Yeah, only the best of the best.
The best
Get
of
on
the
Wheaties.
best.
You know, Olympians we're talking about, world champions.
Caitlyn Jenner, which is Bruce.
Oh, Bruce Jenner.
Bruce Jenner.
Right.
But Ted, let me bring it back to GSP, because GSP, this is a thing that I don't think people understand. GSP, he was on such a tear. Dan Hardy, who actually follows me on Twitter and follows the podcast for years, right?
Nice.
He was supposed to be, in everyone's eyes, the Conor McGregor, right? He was this outlaw, wore the bandana, right?
Oh, the outlaw. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Matt Serra as well, coming in beating GSP. GSP was a force to be reckoned with, and I don't think people give him the credit that he deserves, because after 4 years away, he even came back to beat Michael Bisping. You know, there was a lot of controversy back then. You know, what did they call it? The grease gate?
Wait, say that again?
Not the grease gate, but they called it. He had Vaseline or something on him. Can you bring us through this history?
No, I think they did call it Greasegate.
Was it Greasegate?
I think so. Yeah.
Bring us through this, Ted. What was the history there, GSP? Because really,
it was between rounds in a fight. One of his cornermen, I guess, put his hands on him, but didn't wipe his hands first. And it's I know it's so silly. It's a lubricant, you know what I mean? So that somebody can't get a hold of you if they get you on the ground. They're gonna find it a little more difficult to grab a hold of you and work for a submission.
Against who? Against, I think it was what, Nick Diaz, I think.
Yeah. Wow. I can't remember that. Who was it though? Was it that guy? I think it was the dude who he was from New York City. He had a Muay Thai gym in New York City. I think it was that guy. The name of the gym was the Watt, WAT.
Ted, wow.
I can't remember the guy's name though.
Dropping knowledge right
Can't
here.
remember the guy's name.
GSP Greasegate. Let's actually look that up. But Ted, the history here, and I want you to refresh everyone's memory because this is so interesting. The month of December for mixed martial arts is a big month because everyone is at home. It's cold right now. You know, Ted, that was 11 years ago where GSP relinquished that welterweight title against Johnny Hendricks. Do you remember watching that fight and remembering?
Well, I remember making a video saying Hendricks won the fight. But didn't GSP got the nod from the judges, though, right?
GSP got the nod from the judge. Right.
Because I remember saying Hendricks won the fight. I'm pretty sure I said that in a video way back when.
And I'm pulling up photos of this fight. George St. Pierre was 32, Johnny Hendricks 30 at the time. You know what I mean? Going up into this fight. Johnny Hendricks, another guy that has been forgotten about. He was a wrestler to begin with, right? And he fell in love with his punching power. People are looking at the end of the Johnny Hendricks celebrating GSP with his hands over his head. And GSP was busted up, the press conference with an ice pack on his face. And Johnny Hendricks looked like he didn't even have
not a scratch on him, huh?
Not a scratch on him.
Huh. Well, I got to say this about GSP since we're talking about him. I mean, he holds a place, in my mind. I mean, he's one of the best, and the reason I say that is because of after the Matt Serra fight. It's my understanding,
the Ultimate Fight redemption season,
right? So Matt Serra comes out like a house on fire, and takes it to GSP and wins the title. Who can forget that? He was like, oh, I won, like Matt Serra couldn't even believe it, right? It wasn't supposed to happen that way, but it did. And GSP, that really threw him for a loop psychologically. And so I think it was in I read his autobiography, and I think it was in there that he said that he hired a shrink essentially to get his, a sports psychologist.
There you go.
Sports psychologist.
First person to ever really announce doing something like that, because you think of mixed martial artists as these tough right. guys. Yeah.
But you got to have your mind right as well. It's got to work, in synergy with each other. They got to work together. And so he essentially reinvented himself, because he then transitioned to a more wrestling based plan of attack. That was his offense, was more wrestling based, and he was a hell of a wrestler for a guy who was a Taekwondo black belt. Right? He didn't have wrestling as a base. He didn't grow up since he was 3 or 4 wrestling, like Hendricks did, or some of the other guys. But he took to it like a fish to water, and there was talk. Oh, maybe he could get on the Olympic team. I guess the Canadian wrestling team or something like he had. His takedowns were beautiful. They really were. And so I give a lot of credit to GSP for that, for coming back and altering his style, for really taking stock and saying, you know what, there needs to be a paradigm shift here with what I'm doing if I want to get back on top.
And correct me if I'm wrong. When he came back, he started working that jab. I forget if it was the Matt Serra fight, but obliterated.
No, I know who you're talking about.
Picked apart with. Right?
Yes, he turned this dude's face into a hamburger. He was on The Ultimate Fighter. Oh my God, what was that guy's name? He had blonde hair. He's a light-skinned guy with blonde hair.
GSP Topology.
You know what I'm talking about?
Let's go to the Tapology page right here, Ted. The Rush. The Rush of George St. Pierre.
I don't really like that nickname, Rush.
So let me go backwards in time here. After losing to Matt Serra, he beat Josh Koscheck.
That's the guy. Koscheck.
Okay,
That's
Ultimate Fighter Season 1.
He jabbed the shit out of that guy.
Really quick. Sam Hoger. I've been in talks with Sam Hoger like every couple of weeks, right? He was just in a horrible car accident. He's trying to get back on his feet, guys. I'm gonna share his Cash App or his PayPal. He sent me his link. He's having a really hard time right now, Sam Hoger, who was also on that season of Ultimate Fighter. I'm gonna put that down in the link below. But after losing to Matt Serra, beats Josh Koscheck, beats Matt Hughes, beats Matt Serra again, John Fitch, BJ Penn, Thiago Alves, Dan Hart, Josh Koscheck again, and Jake Shields. Then he comes back.
Wow.
Yeah. Comes back, beats Carlos Condit. He is Johnny Hendricks, split decision. He won that in a split decision 2013. 4 years go by. Beats Michael Bisping via rear naked choke. That's an impressive.
And that was at middleweight, wasn't it?
Against Bisping?
Yeah, the last fight.
Yeah, okay.
Wasn't that?
Bisping is
right. So he jumped up to Bisping's weight class because I mean he was the welterweight champ.
30-9 record.
Am I right?
Bisping was the champ after beating
I just
Luke Rockhold in the rematch, which was absolutely insane. I think UFC 209.
But I was just saying, for GSP's last fight, he jumped up to middleweight to fight Bisping.
You're right. Got on.
It's not as though Bisping came down to 170.
Let's see that really quick.
Unless it was a catch weight or something like that.
Let's see really quick. GSP, because he had to move up in weight. Let's see. Against Michael Bisping, rear naked 2017. Ted, that was 7 years ago. And that fight was actually on, I think, UFC Fight Pass. No, the Anderson Silva was on UFC Fight Pass against Michael Bisping. Damn. Michael Bisping. Dan Henderson before that. The Dan Henderson, another one, Ted. The Dan Henderson fight against Michael Bisping. You know what?
Oh, my God.
A guy who's never been UFC champion, right? He won in Pride. He was unbeatable force. And Michael Bisping beat a very crazy decision fight. But UFC 100, the landmark, the Hendo Bomb. Remember that?
The Hendo Hammer, or the H-Bomb.
The H-Bomb. But shout out to Michael Bisping, man. Anderson beat on his birthday, UFC Fight Pass. After that, Luke Rockhold in the rematch. And then Dan Henderson. Then he goes against GSP. I mean, what a career. But back to the whole GSP thing, man. That was, Ted, 11 years ago. Now, let's refresh everyone's memory really quick about Frank Mir. Because, Ted, after me and you did our podcast of Evil Intoxicated, I did another podcast. Ultimate Fighter Season 10, #1 pick, James McSweeney. As seen on Beavis and Butthead, he was on Beavis and Butthead.
Is he really?
Yeah, they reacted to one of the fights that he had on Ultimate Fighter where he got kicked in the nuts. Dave and Buster's was the sponsor in the middle of the octagon. Drink, eat, play. But yeah, Frank Mir breaks Antonio Nogueira's arm. Let me bring up that photo because landmark fights in MMA history. And we're going to be getting Jon Jones in just a minute. But I just want to refresh everyone's memory because Jon Jones was around in all of these times. Frank Mir kind of disappeared, never got the recognition that he deserves now. If you bring up his name, Ted, do you think anyone remembers Frank Mir? And after you answer that, what do you remember about Frank? What made him special in mixed martial arts and UFC especially?
Well, I mean, obviously his submissions, but and his fights with Brock Lesnar,
huge landmark fight.
Because he submitted Brock in the first fight, and then in the second one, Brock just smashed him.
Yeah,
Brock was like just incredible Hulk. The guy just smashed Hulk, smashed him. You know, but
big
but
win
Frank,
for mixed martial arts there.
Frank had a number of I mean, he's a BJJ wizard. I mean, the guy if you're all right, let me put it this way. Big Nog, one of the best heavyweight BJJ practitioners ever, and Frank Mir submits him. Okay, that just gives you an idea. Like this guy, the Brazilians are tough. They're known for their Brazilian jiu-jitsu because it's in their name, Brazilian. Uh, and for Frank Mir to submit him. Was that the one? I forget. Was that the one where he was on the bottom and he had the arm and you saw the bone snap?
So right now on stream, for those listening to the podcast, the audio podcast on the YouTube channel, everyone's looking at exactly what you just explained. Nog on the bottom and boom. And you saw that. This is one of those moments that you never forget.
Right here on his forearm, right? Poof.
With the Kimura.
Popped. Oh, it was a Kimura. I'm thinking of a different Mir fight. There was another fight with Mir where he got the arm bar. He's on the bottom. He's basically hanging onto the guy's arm, and the guy's forearm.
Tim Sylvia?
Forearm right here. You can see the just
Tim Sylvia.
Almost like an alien. Like a little baby alien trying to pop out.
It had to be
that was the Tim Sylvia fight?
What was it?
I don't know.
He beat him in the armbar. There was that fight, and Tim Sylvia, if I remember correctly, Ted, acted like nothing even happened.
Oh, wow. The maniac.
The maniac. Let me go back for this. 2001 against Roberto Tavern. Pete Williams submission. Loses to Ian Freeman 2002. David Abbott, Wes Sims, Tim Sylvia armbar.
That's probably the one.
Czech Congo guillotine. Antonio Rudd.
Congo was such a dirty fighter.
Czech Congo, God. big dude.
How many dudes did he knee in the nuts? My God.
Right over to Bellator. Czech Congo. Yeah, remember Wes Sims? I love that guy.
Oh, yeah.
Wes Sims. He was a character.
What did he did something
something crazy, right?
He did something crazy when he fought Mir.
Ted, thinking about something crazy, me and you did an interview that I just re-uploaded about a notorious fighter that showed up in a thong.
Oh, Dennis Hallman. Oh,
Dennis
my God.
Hallman sharing that story with us.
Oh, he's crazy.
Dennis Hallman.
He had good stories. He had really good stories.
On that season of Ultimate Fighter with Ronda Rousey. Now, Ted, moving forward here, let's talk about Jon Jones, because this has been a big discussion amongst the mixed martial arts community. And for people who haven't been tuning in for the last... I'm 35 years old now, Ted.
Whoa, old man.
I know, right? I started doing this show when I was 25.
I got 19 years on you. I'm 19 years older than you.
Really?
So don't worry, I'm 54.
Really, Ted? So how old were you when we started doing the podcast 10 years ago? It was 9 years ago.
43, 44, probably somewhere in there.
So before that, Ted, here's what I remember from you, because you were the OG back in the day. You could type in MMA news on YouTube right now, and MMA Guru will pop up. This and that. But back in the day, you type in MMA news. You know who popped up? Ted Czech, James Lynch would pop up, along with Zane Simon and Eddie Mercado. Ted, you were the first MMA journalist that I actually tuned into on YouTube.
Yeah?
You were the first MMA journalist I tuned in on YouTube in the car, right? You do.
That's insane. Yeah. That was the
sedan.
The studio sedan. Yeah.
That you flipped, right? I remember we did it like the week you flipped the car or something.
I didn't flip. Somebody rear. Well, yeah. Some kid going probably like 50 miles an hour. I was at a dead stop, and this kid was going he had to be going about 50, and he just smashed into the back of my car, and it flipped right over on its roof.
Dirt. And then you wrote an article about it. I just re-listened to the episode, Ted. You wrote an article about it, and then the wife emailed you saying you, but you were the victim.
Oh, did she? Yeah. She was upset about that.
I just re-listened to the old episode.
Oh, yeah. The girlfriend was upset.
You
What
wrote
the
an article
hell?
because you worked for the newspaper
I
company.
didn't even out the kid. I didn't say like, oh, this is the kid's name or anything. I gave nothing, no distinguishable characteristics to where you would be able to figure
Identify.
out who I was talking about unless you actually knew the kid,
Yeah.
you know? But
It's
yeah, I'm just sitting there. I was behind somebody who was trying to make a left. So I was at a dead stop. And yeah, he just bam, he barreled into the back of me. And I think I had my wheel turned a little bit to the right. So I ended up flipping that way onto the roof. And then I got out and then I started filming
yeah, yeah.
because I wasn't injured. And because I was so, as a reporter, as a newspaper reporter,
Got out.
yeah, and yeah, because I was so used to doing that. This was when yeah, I would go to crime scenes and just pull up Facebook Live and start recording and bring people along with me. You know what I mean? So I was so used to doing that, and then also I wanted to do it just to record it, for just in case I
For
needed it
insurance
as
purposes.
evidence. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just started recording and narrating my own freaking crash. Yeah.
Ted, before that, too, I remember there was this case that you covered back in the day. For people who used to watch, I think it was on the History Channel, there was a show called Amish Mafia, and they had uh,
God.
a boxing fight or something like that. Ted, do you remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it
And
was in
you
a barn.
debunked the History Channel saying this isn't legit history. You were that
Well,
guy.
there was something. Okay, so if you watch the show, they had okay. So there were everybody was an actor.
Amish Mafia. See,
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
in
Amish Mafia.
Pennsylvania, so
Yeah, they were trying to pass it off as it was real, as reality shows do, but the whole thing was scripted and everybody was an actor, pretty much. I mean, they may have lived in Lancaster, but they probably most of them were not actually Amish. I think they a couple of them may have been Mennonites, which are similar to Amish people, but they are able to drive cars and some other things. So it's kind of like Amish light
yeah.
if you're a Mennonite. So some of them might have been Mennonites, but they were definitely not Amish. Anyway, so the Amish mafia kingpin had a buddy who was kind of like his bodyguard. So he was a dude who looked tough and he was muscular and lean, and so when one of the episodes he went into this barn and had a fight in a they had a ring in a barn, I guess.
So you're
But then
sitting there on the couch watching this episode in Pennsylvania, and you're going, "Wait, I cover combat sports." So bring us through this, Ted, because
well,
this is history.
I think what happened was I found an article, a newspaper article that somebody else, probably from Lancaster County, where the thing was being filmed. I think I found an article, and something in the article led me to believe that the whole thing was staged.
What, like?
Just whatever the writer discovered.
Because you have to have commission, right? Like you
Right,
can't.
it was an unsanctioned. Oh, maybe that's what it was. Maybe I think I called because I was familiar with the the sports I don't know what they called it, the athletic commission,
Athletic commission.
Pennsylvania Athletic Commission. I knew the director
Shout out
at
to
the
your sweatshirt right there. It all
Penn
home
State.
right there.
Yeah.
I love
So I knew that that's what happened, Eddie. It's all coming back to me now. It's been a while. I called the director of the Pennsylvania Athletic Commission and I said, "Did you guys sanction this fight?" And he said, "No, we didn't sanction that. That didn't happen. That's not. It's not. I think he probably said it's not real or whatever."
the History Channel.
Oh yeah, anything to make a buck.
That's crazy news.
They probably had good ratings. I mean, Amish Mafia. It sounds so crazy, right?
But like, what kind of MMA journalist, combat sports journalist, would sit there and like reach out? That's good journalism, Ted.
Yeah, I just, I mean, I was around for when Pennsylvania legalized the sport.
So
I was there for the first official, the first they may have had, things that were illegal or what, someone's backyard or whatever, but I'm talking the first sanctioned event in Pennsylvania. It was in a ballroom. It was at a an event center where they would have weddings. So the floor where they would dance the night away, that's where they plunked down a cage. And yeah, I think they still had the crystal ball up in the ceiling or whatever, or the chandeliers and shit. Like, yeah, it was a ballroom.
We only play
And
pre-'80s Billy Joel, right?
and
Ted,
the
you
chicken
went
dance.
against the Amish mafia. I mean, what kind of repercussions came from that? Like sour milk, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I found a bunch of cow dung in
Cow
my
shit,
yard.
yeah.
Right.
The little
Um,
bag of cow shit at the front door.
right, right. You got to light it on fire.
That's a real MMA history right there, Ted.
That was pretty crazy. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I was, luckily I was familiar with the athletic commission and said, oh, yeah, it's just reporter instincts. When you got a question, find somebody who can give you the answer.
And that's real journalism right there. We really don't see stuff like that much anymore, unless it's people, they don't take it as serious anymore. That's what I liked about your journalism when I was in. You would do it daily on your channel for Ted Czech in your car before the Amish Mafia sent some 19-year-old kid out to flip your car as you were parked and just,
Oh, so I think we finally cracked the case. It was a vendetta.
That's
Oh, all
what
right.
it was.
It was a hit.
Yeah. You got what do you call it when the horse kicks back? That's what it was right there.
Oh, okay.
So Ted, Jon Jones back in that era. You and I both remember. I was right out of high school. I graduated 2008. Jon Jones made his debut in 2008 against another undefeated fighter. But after that, I'm shocked because the UFC upcoming guy who was talented, they threw him in there against guys who are in the Hall of Fame today.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We got Lyoto Machida. We got
Shogun.
We got Hendo, Anthony Smith if you want to throw him in there. We got Ramp Jackson, Ted. I remember tuning in for this right out of high school. My buddy's dad, I had this buddy, his name was Dave. We'd go over there. It was the house you would smoke weed at and hang out. You drink beer. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And we had a party, the UFC party. Just became champion, right? He, I think right before that, he beat Shogun, right? Do you remember the Shogun fight?
I do because
Rashad was supposed to fight Shogun, and they trained at the same gym. Do you remember that?
Oh no! You know what? I was thinking of the Lyoto fight where he choked him out with the guillotine and then let him drop.
That was right after the ramp.
And then his coach, Greg
Winklejohn Jackson.
Greg Jackson told him to go back over to Lyoto's corner and check on him because that would get him more fans. He would look better. He would curry favor with the fans. He said, get some fans. Go over there and look at him and get some fans.
This is before he hit the pregnant woman. This is when we had Jon Jones, Jesus Christ, Mama, I'm a champ.
Squeaky clean.
Squeaky clean Jon Jones. Clean Jon Jones. But let me bring you guys back for a little MMA history. Rashad Evans and him trained at the same gym. Right?
Oh, okay. Oh, they were training. Rashad was at, yeah, and then he left.
Because Jon got the fight and they started paying more attention to Jon. So what happens after that, Ted? Shogun fight, he beats Rampage. I remember watching this fight. As I was just saying, over my buddy's house, I was like, "There's no way he's gonna beat Rampage," because in my mind, it's Rampage Jackson. You know what I mean? Like, here's this kid, New York, probably. Well, Jon was the youngest UFC champion at the time. Maybe there was I think he was 19 years old, right out of New York.
Was he? Was he 19?
19
Wait,
years old.
he didn't graduate college? I thought he had graduated.
I could look back
He's
at
probably
it.
like 21, 22 maybe. You think?
Let's see.
I don't
Let's
know.
see. Jon Jones.
I know he was the youngest. Prior to him, Josh Barnett was the baby-faced assassin was the youngest champ.
Not in the UFC. Before the UFC, he was champ. What do I remember? What am I remembering? He was champ before the UFC. He was champion.
Who?
Josh
Who?
Barnett.
Barnett? No, he was champ in the UFC, and then they pulled his title from him because he popped for steroids.
Pop. Okay.
But he was the youngest at the time.
He was the youngest. You're right.
Babyface assassin.
You're totally right. You're totally right. So after that, he beats Rampage, right? Beats Machida. Then he goes in there against Rashad. I don't know if you remember this, Ted. It was such a build-up. Like, this camp used to like train Rashad and John.
Oh, so they made it like a big blood feud kind of thing.
Yeah, Jon Jones did not turn down from Vito. He did not turn down from. So Shogun, he gets the title. He beats beats Machida. At the time, Ted, remember Joe Rogan saying Machida is the next biggest thing in mixed martial arts.
Mm-hmm.
Before any of this, there's a disqualification in there. There's a disqualification against there. UFC Star Wars edition. Matt Hamill.
Matt Hamill, yeah, the 12-6, the straight down elbows,
which is now legal. Ted, bring our listeners in what you remember about Matt Hamill on The Ultimate Fighter with Rampage. Rampage took, I think it was Rampage. Matt Hamill's deaf, right? So it's a hard time to corner him. He was an up and coming guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I don't remember. I mean, he seemed like a really genuinely a nice guy.
Yeah.
And you had to feel for the guy, because of his difficulties getting.
It was life. Tito. It was Tito Ortiz, I believe.
Tito Ortiz did.
Yeah.
What?
Trained him on The Ultimate Fighter.
Oh, okay.
There it was against Shamrock, I believe.
Yeah.
Correct
So
me if I'm wrong.
I think the whole thing with the 12-6 elbows was there was the way the rules went is you couldn't strike. There was like a strip, almost like a mohawk, if you would imagine, where you couldn't. This region you could not hit, and then it kind of flared out at the further back you got, because all this back here is very sensitive. You don't want to be hitting somebody back there. So I don't know since then what changed it, why you can strike somebody with a 12-6 elbow on the top of their head. Wow. That's yeah, I don't know if I'm in favor of that, but yeah.
Steve Mazzagatti, I think, was the referee as well.
That remains Jon Jones's only blemish on his record.
Not a loss though. It was not a loss. It was a DQ, and he was.
Well, it's I mean, but it counted as an L. Didn't it?
Yeah.
But because, hey, let me talk about the Gustafsson fight for a second there.
Please.
That fight, I felt Jon Jones lost.
Ted, I'm bringing you full screen. I love the MMA history with Ted. Guys, for those of you listening to MMA podcasts out there, whether it's MMA Fighting, Ariel Helwani Show, MMA Roasted, whatever shout out to MMA Roasted. They're another show that me and Ted do. Talk about MMA history with Don Fry and Mayhem Miller. I'm editing their show. For anyone who listens to Pure Evil MMA and Evil Intoxicated, who's also a fan of Adam Hunter, Mayhem Miller, Don Fry, and all of them, I'm actually the one who's editing the show that everyone's been waiting for Sean McCorkle to release. Wow. I got hired to do this, so I'm sending it to Adam after our podcast. But you don't hear MMA history any other MMA podcast, Ted. But this is the stuff that you are a god in, Ted. I used to call you the infamous Ted Czech. I didn't know what infamous stood for, and you said Eddie. I was listening to our old episodes, Ted. You said, Eddie, do you know what infamous stands for? I said, no. You said, Ed, It means somebody who's known for something awful.
Well, yeah, I mean, you think of famous, and then what's the opposite? Infamous.
I was looking at infamous Ted Czech. I guess it's because I was in with the mafia. I was in the mafia, yeah. But going back to what you're talking about, I'm going to bring you in full screen right here for this MMA history lesson. This is what it's all about.
Well, yeah. So you had this guy Gustafsson, Alexander Gustafsson, and he had been tearing through people in the UFC. So you had to figure sooner or later his trajectory and Jon Jones, they were going to meet, and he was physically just as big as Jon Jones. He actually had him by an inch, at least height wise. He was 6'5". I don't know that he had as long a reach as Jon Jones. No one has as long a reach as Jon Jones. For God's sake, the guy's like a 747 as far as his wingspan. But Gustafsson was every bit as skilled, I believe, as Jon Jones. And this was the first fight that you ever saw anyone, and probably I don't think anyone's been able to do it since, take Jon Jones down repeatedly.
Yeah.
Gustafsson did it. He took it to him. He took him to the ground.
September 21st, 2015. Before that, he lost. The only loss was to Phil Davis. Now, Phil Davis took Gustafsson in to train him after the loss, where he went on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fight tear.
Well,
Shogun, yeah.
Davis was a great collegiate athlete in his own right. He was a Penn State wrestler, and he got his start. I remember seeing him right when he was starting out. I believe he had just turned pro. There was a gym. It's not owned. The guy's name was the gym owner's name was Chad Dubin. And Chad Dubin owned this gym at State College,
Penn State.
Penn State.
Phil Davis is from Pennsylvania.
Right. So Phil was the top guy at this gym. So Chad Dubin put him up in an apartment and brought trainers in like Mark Fight Shark, Mark the Shark. I can't remember his last name. Oh my God, that's gonna kill me. Anyway, a famous Muay Thai teacher, fighter.
Wonderful.
Yeah, Paul. Yeah, not Paul Orndorff. The original Mr. Wonderful was Paul Orndorff, the WWF wrestler. But anyway, so Phil Davis was training at Penn State, and I had the honor of watching him train when he was just getting started in his career. But anyway, back to the Gustafsson fight. So, you know how they say that, never leave it in the hands of the judges. That's one thing. You've heard Dana White say that over and over throughout the years. That's one thing. And then kind of a takeoff on Ric Flair. To be the man, you got to beat the man. So you've got Jon Jones, who's the champ. Apparently, in order to beat Jon Jones as champ, you would have had to have either submitted him or knocked him out. You couldn't decision the guy, because if ever I believe that Gustafsson won the fight by decision. He took Jon Jones down repeatedly. He turned his face into a hamburger. I mean, they both
first couple rounds.
They both were injured. They both, their faces were marked up, real soundly. Because there's a famous photo of the two of them in the hospital afterwards. I guess they were treated, and then they kind of found each other. They're probably treated in the same emergency room, and they posed for a photo. And
that's wild, because we see a lot of those photos nowadays. I wonder if that's like where it started.
Well, I mean, certainly, that was a show of camaraderie after a fight. Unlike the
Nick Diaz versus my boy.
Joe. What was his name? Joe
Riggs.
Joe Riggs.
I had Joe Riggs on the podcast, man, and he brought me through this story of going to the hospital and then going to get treatment at the hospital. and then getting beat up by Nick Diaz, who also
he had his IV got pulled out and his blood spurting everywhere, right?
yeah. Here on Pure Evil MMA, we got that story. Yep.
Oh my God! Wow. Anyway, so yeah, so that's the Jon Jones Gustafson fight. They had I think they had another one, and Jon Jones beat him.
Oh, real quick.
You know, yeah, what? Oh, beat him real quick. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But that first fight, I think after that, I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know because I've never
2018.
interviewed Gustafson, but like he wasn't quite the same after that.
Yeah.
Didn't quite have that spark.
Yeah,
It's
after
like
he lost to John. Like before that, he beat Shogun, Thiago Silva. He beat Matt Hamill. Yeah, he was on tear, but then he lost to Rumble Johnson, Rumble Johnson, rest in peace. The guy who should have fought Jon Jones. The guy who, man, Ted, do you remember Rumble versus DC? First round, drops DC. But then after that, it's destroyed. Then they did the rematch, and then Rumble Johnson retired. As he retires, Rumble's corner, Ted, there's a big conspiracy theory about this. Rumble's corner left the stadium.
Oh, like abandoned him
in the octagon, left him there. After, and he was also
what was that all about?
Winning that fight.
The thing with Rumble was you talk about how he put Cormier down and then but lost the fight.
Yeah.
I don't think his cardio was up to snuff because the guy would drop down. Now for that fight against Cormier, he was fighting at 205.
But he also
fought at welterweight. He would walk around at like 230, 235 in the off season. Like, see, I'm a big proponent of, and who was saying this recently? It was Colby Covington was saying, just you kind of keep yourself always ready, and then you don't need as long of a fight camp. You don't need an 8 to 10 week fight camp if you're always in shape. You might only need like a 3-week camp, like what he did.
The Amish Mafia said, stay stable.
Oh God! But so did you just make that up right now?
I had to. I just came.
Oh my God! All right, so God, I can't even remember what the hell we were talking about.
You're talking about Colby Covington about.
So keep yourself
Rumble
always
Johnson
at the ready. Keep yourself in decent shape so that you don't need to kill yourself for 8 to 10 weeks. Rumble Johnson did just the opposite. He would just gorge himself and balloon up to 230, 235. I forget, he was probably about 6'1", and then just absolutely murder himself to get down to 170. Just totally unhealthy. And you have to wonder that, or you have to think, sooner or later, you keep doing that repeatedly, that's got to take its toll on you. That's serious trauma that you're putting your body through.
Yeah, 6'2". Yeah, he beat Gustafson, beat Antonio Rodriguez, beat Phil Davis, Mike Kyle, Andrei Arlovsky. You know what I mean? Like David Branch. And then he lost to DC again, and God rest his soul. Ted, he was 6'2", so yeah, you're right on point, and signing with Bellator. But he was supposed to fight Jon Jones as well. Remember, they tricked Dana White out, scared the shit out of Dana White.
Oh yes, it was like a fake
face-off.
Yeah, like they were about to just go at it on stage.
Now, Ted, Jon Jones, what do you think of him? All these years we've him come up. He's never ducked a fight. I just listed off a ton of names that are Hall of Fame names, right?
Except for Tom Aspinall. He's never ducked a fight.
Okay. That's what we're going to get into here. Right?
Well, yeah. So, yeah, the thing when behind the scenes, you and I talking about this, the big question is, because Dana White has been kind of the drum that he's been beating, I don't know, all year.
Pound for pound.
Is Jon Jones is pound for pound.
Ted, what is pound for pound to you, though? What is
What's that?
pound for pound? Because if anyone in MMA journalism knows what pound for pound is,
Oh
let's
God,
go
you put me
back.
on the spot.
You said you're what? How old are you now, Ted?
54.
And you said as a teenager reading, Brazilian jiu-jitsu. What is pound for pound in somebody who's been through the journey of mixed martial arts and combat sports? What does pound for pound mean to you? And then I'll bring up where that term actually came from.
Okay. Well, let me go back and talk to you about what Dana White thinks it means.
Okay.
He says the way he puts it is if Jon Jones is in a room, it doesn't matter who you put in there with him, Jon Jones is coming out of that room as the winner. That's what he says when people ask him, how can you say that Jon Jones is pound for pound the best? I believe that it's talking about dominance. So how dominant are you in your particular weight class? But I think also there's the whole idea of, okay, so say you had Mighty Mouse, right, at 125 pounds. If you take Mighty Mouse and you make him 6'4" and 205 pounds, how would he fare against Jon Jones? Would he beat Jon Jones or would he not beat Jon Jones? For instance, yeah. Yeah, that's truly a David and Goliath moment right there. If that happened, Mighty Mouse, what is he, 5'2", and 125 pounds against Ngannou, who's what, 6'4", 265. But yeah, that when I think of pound for pound, that's what I think of. Your skills relative to those to all of the other individuals in your weight class. How do you stack up? How dominant are you against them? But then also, how do your skills stack up against people of different weight classes? How are you so dominant in the 205 class that you're better than somebody in another weight class who's not quite as dominant? Does that make sense? Oh, look, you got the rat. That's a big one.
For those of you who can't see it right now, Ted, I had your photo, I had your video for people listening to the audio. Yeah.
Video.
It was
and
Jon Jones right there. But yeah, if you've been tuned into Pure Evil MMA and you've been intoxicated, for the last 10 years, I always have my pet rats with me.
So right now Eddie has a decent sized albino rat on it's climbing all over his shoulders and back.
His chip. Yeah, he's a big boy. I rescued him.
That looks like it's got to be at least a pound.
Oh yeah, I rescued him. He was supposed to be snake food. Probably. I feed him good. I give him what I eat.
His tail's like about 10 inches long.
Let's see. He likes to wrap it around. Yeah, I got 4 of them right now. I got 2 girls that I just rescued from a girl that I was hooking up with for a while, for a couple of years, and then
just for her rats.
Yeah, I was trying to get.
You liked her because she had rats.
It was before she ever had rats. I broke up with my girlfriend and found another girl who kind of looked like my girlfriend, and then she came over.
Well, that happens.
You ever hear of catfishing? I met this girl on Facebook. I was going through a breakup.
She looked really good online.
Looked really good online. I've recently been posting some flashback videos of some MMA trivia I've done and stuff like that, and she was on one of those episodes. The girl who I broke up with. So another girl, I won't mention her name, but she looked similar. Redhead, nice body, cute face, messaging me. You know what I mean? She came over, Ted. Mm-hmm. I started hanging out with her and her friend. I told them to leave. Is that rude? You know what I mean? Like, they showed up
Unannounced they showed up?
No, I invited them over,
You
but
invited
like
them
she
over?
came
And then,
over to sleep over, and I was like, you know what I mean? Like, he
came over to sleep over?
came over to sleep over, and I was
With
just
her friend, or the
with
friend
her
was gonna leave?
friend was I don't. It could have went any way I wanted it to go. Really,
Could have went
could have went any
a
way I
three-way.
wanted it to go, Ted.
Could have
Honestly,
went three-way. Okay.
could have went any way I wanted it to go.
But you just weren't feeling it at the time?
It wasn't that. It was I got catfished.
Oh,
Catfished bad.
because
So she messaged me a couple years later, a couple months ago.
she didn't look the way she looked on
At
Facebook.
all. At all. At all.
Ooh,
But
that's
you know
not
what?
good.
I'll drink sometimes. I'll take a couple shots and I'll be like, should I text her? Like, was she that bad? You know what I mean? You know what I mean, Ted?
Mm.
I know our young listeners know what I mean here. You know? But
Well,
yeah,
no, I mean, but the key point, what you said is you have some drinks and then you think about calling her. You don't think about calling her when you're sober, do you?
oh no.
Yeah, it's only when you drink.
It's only when I
So what does
drink.
that tell you? So what does that tell you?
I'm
You
ducking
know,
her. I'm ducking her.
it means that yeah, no, that's not a good move. Move on.
You know what, Ted? I'm
Greener
at the
pastures.
age, and this really ties into Jon Jones. I'm at the age where these hookups, really these one night stand hookups that I'm not going to remember down the road, they really don't add up to what I'm looking for. It might be a night where I'm drinking, you know what I mean, thinking about it, but what does that do for me? And I feel like that's kind of similar to where Jon Jones is. We were talking about 19
Mm.
years old. He's taking these fights. He gets Tinder matched with Shogun. He gets Tinder matched with. All right, I'm going
Okay,
in
that's
there.
a little weird, but okay.
Right, I'm going in there. I'm gonna bang this. Right, I'm going in there. I'm gonna bang him until he submits. Right. That's what.
I do let you bang. I do
I
let you bang.
let me bang, bro. Right.
Let me bang, bro.
At this point, Ted, I'm 35. It's December. It's 6 months. I'm a Gemini. I'm 34. I'm 30. I forget. As you get older, you kind of forget. But it's more about my legacy. I'm not going to give anyone my time, my headspace, if I
Right.
don't think it's right for me. It could be the hottest girl that everyone's talking about, like Tom Aspinall. But Ted, how many times have we seen a Ted Aspinall? Every 2 years, there's a new Ted Aspinall.
I like that, Ted Aspinall. Has a certain ring to it.
Ted Aspinall, right? Ted Aspinall.
Aspinall.
Wait, Tom Aspinall. Ted Aspinall.
So, well, let me just the thing that we were talking about in the kind of the build up to this was should Jon Jones you asked me pound for pound.
Yes, perfect.
Is he the greatest ever? And the way I look at it is I kind of use the baseball analogy, which is you remember the whole steroid scandal.
Yeah, Ted, let me
back in the
interrupt you
90s.
really quick.
What?
Please let me interrupt you really quick because I'm such a nerd when it comes to this. And this is the build up that our listeners really enjoy, right?
Right.
Ruth, home run king.
Right.
Said, how many episodes have I brought in my Roger Maris, Mickey Mantle photo that I have hanging above me here? 1961 was the year, Ted. 1961. Roger Maris comes in, beats the home run record of Babe Ruth, added with a couple of days here and there for the MLB, right? He's the new king. What, 30 years go by, Ted? We got a young guy named Mark McGuire. I have his rookie card right over here on the table. My grandfather recently passed away. I got his whole collection of sports memorabilia back here. Mark McGuire, as I was a kid growing up, I think I was 9 years old. I think the year was 99, 2001, somewhere around there. Mark McGuire coming up, Sammy Sosa. These guys were there bucking. And I remember the day that Mark McGuire hit the 62nd home run. And we saw Roger. I'm getting the freaking chills. I'm really getting the chills right now. Roger Maris's wife was in the crowd watching.
Ah, man.
As her
because they knew it was going to happen at some point.
But what was about this, Ted? There was steroids involved.
The steroids.
There were steroids involved, right?
Right. So yeah, I mean, you had Mark McGuire and Sammy Sosa, going for that title there, home run king, and it's one season, single season home run. But then you had Barry Bonds, who beat Hank Aaron's overall home run record. Barry Bonds, I mean, the guy was somewhere in his mid-30s, playing for the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Pirates or the Giants?
No, Pirates for sure. Pirates. He was on the same team with Bobby Bonilla, I think, for a little while. The guy was like 6'1", $180 or something like that.
Not when he started. Not when McGuire started.
Well, that's it. So and he was hitting home runs, but I don't know exactly. I don't have the stats, but maybe he was doing 20, 25 a year or something like that. It was good, but it wasn't anywhere near great. He goes over to San Francisco, and the guy bulks up to like, what did he get up to, like 240 or something like that?
Big boy.
Yeah,
hitting over 400 feet home runs.
Right. That just doesn't happen naturally. You don't gain 50 pounds of muscle and then just start slamming home runs in your mid-30s. When you've been playing the game professionally for like a dozen years. So yeah, and so that's the way I look at it. Those guys are not in the Hall of Fame.
But does that also make
they have an asterisk? They have an asterisk next to their names.
But should that give Jon Jones an extra plus because he was beating guys who were definitely on performance-enhancing drugs?
But he was as well.
He was on party enhancement drugs.
No, he's been busted for he's been busted for steroids
dick
too.
Pills. Yeah, the Ted, we did it as it UFC 200. Remember, we did it as it broke. The picogram, the picogram of what was it? Picogram of Dexerol. That it was like a dick pill or something.
But there's been other instances where okay. So my point
Bring us through it, Ted. Bring us through it.
My point, and I wish I had written them down, compiled a list, because there's just so many. It's as long as my arm. All of the different things. When you look at all of the different things that that have happened to him, the hiding under the cage
Ted,
at
for
Jackson
people who
Winklejohn.
don't know, you got to bring them through these MMA history stories. Chael Sonnen says USADA shows up,
right, at Jackson Winklejohn, and because the way they did it, I don't know if they still do it this way, but they just show up, and you got to piss. That's what random testing is. They can wake you up in the middle of the night. They can go to where you're in the middle of something, and so allegedly, Jon Jones hid under a cage in the facility and waited. And I guess the other people there were like, well, we don't know where he is. And so eventually the people who were going to test him left. And as an aside, there was a time when Wanderlei Silva Wanderlei Silva just ran away.
Ran away, right?
I don't know if he got into his car, but he definitely ran out. He had his own place in Vegas, Wand.
Elvis has left the building. Gym.
What's that?
Elvis had left the building, right?
Yeah, and so they showed up and he ran. But
Jose Aldo, another one. He starts walking towards the USADA people with the pee in his hand and spills it all over the floor.
Oh, whoops.
Yeah, whoops.
Oh, no.
Whoops. Yeah.
But anyway, back to Jon Jones. Like, there's been infraction after infraction.
What does that have to do with pound for pound? Does that take away?
Well, I'm saying that we need to consider these things, just like we look at Sammy's in baseball. We look at Sammy Sosa, Mark McGuire, and Barry Bonds, and we have an asterisk next to their names, and they're never getting in the Hall of Fame because they did steroids. It at least in baseball, they directly linked it to their performance. They said, "Oh, that's why they're called PEDs, performance enhancing drugs. Had they not used, we will never know, but they figured, oh well, because they used the drugs, it more than likely resulted in their increased performance. So that's artificial. It shouldn't have been introduced to their bodies into their bodies, and so therefore we can't allow them into the Hall of Fame. I say the same thing for Jon Jones. All of the various things he's done over the years, and I'm not that what they find in the car with the pregnant woman there. That
Ted,
might have
bring
been
us through this too. There's so many new MMA fans out there. They might spark an
They
interest.
may not be aware of
and
it.
You are the MMA historian.
I was going to write them all down. But I can't go to his Wikipedia page. I think most of them are there, or do a search.
Well, Ted, originally he was the hero because there was a woman who was getting robbed. Do you remember this one?
Mm-hmm.
A woman
was
getting robbed.
Chased the robber down.
Chased the robber down.
Oh, yeah. He was going to be. I think he might have majored in law enforcement in college, or he said he was going to be a police officer. So he had that mentality, and this kind of this ethics and morality. He was seen as a
Christian, right?
A Christian, just an all-around great guy. Just can do no wrong. Great guy.
Yeah.
Right. And slowly
we dug up the bones in the closet. There was a bunch of bones in the closet. That image
started to get tarnished. The crash with that you were talking about with the pregnant woman, not inside his vehicle. No, I believe he had another woman. Wait, was that the time he had another woman inside his vehicle, or was that? There was another crash.
There was a crash where he crashed into a pregnant woman. He returned to the vehicle to retrieve a pot pipe. It probably more paraphernalia.
Paraphernalia and condoms, I think.
And condoms.
Right? I think so. I don't know.
He's been pulled over multiple times for speeding in his car. I remember when I first started the podcast, that was like huge news. He got busted for the picogram. They uplifted a whole event, moved it from Vegas to California or something like that. But Ted, I still, outside of all of that, I still consider him my pound for pound best fighter. Now, what is your argument against anyone saying that? I'm going to bring you in.
I mean, because of all of these infractions, because of all these transgressions. Yeah, it's just that. Because of all these things, they count against him. More than likely he was on something or several things during some of his fights. I don't know if Eddie, you can call up his Wikipedia so we can look at some of these transgressions, because me talking about it and not citing makes me kind of look like a goof.
This just proves there's a lot of them,
Yeah, there's multiple things, and I'm not even talking about like the crashes. I'm talking about mainly or the alleged domestic violence, which Colby Covington brought up in his
2000 when he was arrested in Las Vegas on domestic battery charge for alleged grabbing his fiance by her hair. But at the same time, Dana White, owner of the UFC, in front of us all on New Year's, slapping his wife as a big promotion.
That ain't cool either. Yeah, neither one of it. I mean, jeez.
2000 March 26, 2020, Jon Jones arrested in New Mexico for alleged aggravated DWI and negligent use of a firearm, among other charges. A timeline of Jon Jones' legal trouble and arrest. Let's check this one out. All right. Oh, wow. Ted, you ready for this? May 2012, Jon Jones was involved in an accident where he drove into a car, telephone pole, and Birmingham, New York. At the time, Jon Jones was arrested for driving under the influence and was later plead guilty to DUI. He was then sentenced to any jail time and was instead had to pay a fine. August 2014, in a lead up to UFC 178, Jones versus DC, he was involved in an altercation during fight week media obligations. Two needed to be separated and received punishment from Nevada State Athletic Commission.
That's where they were on the stage
pussy?
and the brawl spilled off. Yeah,
right?
Sean, who was the little guy? Sean Spicer, was that his name? Sean Spicer. He tried to separate them and
threw him through the background.
He was so tiny and yeah.
April 2015, Jones was fresh off his UFC 278 win over DC and seemed to be riding high when he again found himself in legal trouble. Jones was arrested in Albuquerque, New Mexico after leaving the scene of a hit and run. Jones was charged with felony of leaving the scene of a crime, having marijuana pipe in the vehicle. The victim of the hit and run was pregnant. So that was the 2015. July 2019, Jones was charged with battery following claim from a waitress. I remember from a waitress that Jones hit her with, assaulted her. Jones pleaded no contest, placed on 90 days probation. March 2020, Jones was arrested after a police officer heard gunshots and went to investigate. When the officer arrived, they found Jones in his Jeep intoxicated. He failed a field sobriety test. Police found a gun and partially a bottle of Ricardo Mezcal in a car, charged with Jones' aggravated DWI. September 2021. Wow.
Right.
2021.
No. Yeah.
Just hours after being inducted in the UFC Hall of Fame, Jones was arrested after police responded to a domestic violence incident. According to police, the report said Jones's daughter requested police to be called after her mother was locked out of their hotel room following an argument with Jones. While Jones was being questioned, he head-butted a police officer, resisted questioning, threatened the officer, and was eventually arrested. Coach John asked his longtime coach John to leave the gym after the incident. December 2022, domestic violence charge against Jones was dropped. He was charged to plead guilty of felony tampering with a vehicle, $750 fine. April 5th, an article by ABQ Raw News reported the UFC heavyweight champion Jon Jones was involved in an incident with someone looking to collect a sample from him.
A what?
For a sample for the UFC's new anti-doping program. The outlet reported that sources claim Jones appeared extremely intoxicated, threatened to kill the tester, and took his phone from him. The incident was alleged to have happened at the end of March, but was not reported until April. July 2000. Wow, Ted.
Yeah.
July 2023. Jones has been charged with 2 misdemeanors stemming from April 2023 incident involving drug testing administrations. If convicted, he would face jail time and fine. Well, updated. Ted, if this was any friend I knew, if this was my brother, my sister, my father, my mother, if it was me, I'd be in jail. But I'm still here defending him as pound for pound because I believe that none of this has anything to do.
No, and you're right.
A lot of MMA fans may, and maybe they're on your side, and this is the debate here. This is what makes things exciting. I still think he's the pound for pound. Outside of the cage, say what you will. What is the argument against somebody like me?
So yeah, you're absolutely right that none of that counts against him as far as pound for pound. That's all of those, his legal troubles. I would say I wouldn't want somebody like that in the Hall of Fame because he's just not a.
He makes Pete Rose look like a freaking angel, man.
Right. He is not a decent human being. He's not an admirable representative of the sport and of the UFC. But he makes money, and so Dana White supports him no matter what. He's always had his back. He's always supported him and probably gotten him out of a lot of those jams.
Yeah.
No, what I'm talking about is the steroid stuff. And so you were getting into the legal stuff, but there should be another section of that Wikipedia or I'm sure somebody somewhere has compiled a list of all the different violations that he's had related to performance-enhancing drugs. That's the part that I say, that's the asterisk, like with Mark McGuire and Sammy Sosa and Barry Bonds. That's what should prevent him from being considered. Well, I guess they would.
Going back to 2016 as well, Jones 29 tested positive for the presence of 2 prohibited substances. 2023, the former UFC light heavyweight champion, previous test resulted are no longer valid as of 2019 for USA anti-doping. UFC champ Jon Jones charged with 2024. That's an assault. There's a lot here, Ted. There's a lot.
Like just steroid stuff.
Yeah, steroids, arrest. Do you think that's one of the reasons they got rid of USADA as well?
Oh, there's a conspiracy theory. I don't know. I haven't looked into that. Maybe to protect Jon Jones and also Conor McGregor.
But Ted, you discuss what your pound for pound reading is, correct?
Well, okay, so I mean, because he has repeatedly indulged in performance enhancing drugs, allegedly, from what those sources tell us. So therefore he is not a he's not playing on a level field. Everybody should be. I mean, if you want everybody to do steroids, I guess you could do that, and then it would be a level playing field.
So are we supposed to forget about anything prior to 2016? Any fighter, anything? They shouldn't be Hall of Fame. They shouldn't be.
At one point, TRT was legal, was acceptable in the UFC. So testosterone replacement therapy.
Yeah. And
they were, the fighters were manipulating things, because what they would do is they would get on steroids, which what it does is, my understanding, it changes your body chemistry so that you're not naturally producing testosterone, because you're introducing it in an unnatural way. So your body's like, oh, well, it is coming into me, so I don't need to make it myself. That's what the body figures.
But
right?
My argument here, Ted, I'm sorry. My argument was always, if a fighter has a lower testosterone level, shouldn't they be able to take it to be up to a normal level?
Well, yeah, but they shouldn't. I mean, generally speaking, they aren't going to have low levels. If you're working out, if you're eating right, if you're getting proper sleep, your T levels should, in theory, be at an acceptable level.
Yeah.
So, and I just remember reading back in the day, this is what they would do. So they would get on the steroids, that would drop their T levels naturally. Then they would go to their doctor and be like, "Hey, doc, look, I have low T levels. What can you do for me?" "Oh, I'll put you on testosterone replacement therapy." And that's how they would do it. And then also, one of the things I think that Jon Jones was busted for was an estrogen blocker, because
Chris Cyborg,
right?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't Jon Jones get busted for that?
Yep.
It was an estrogen blocker. People who are on steroids get on estrogen blockers because your testosterone goes down, natural testosterone, your estrogen spikes. That's why bodybuilders have those, what they call gynecomastia, or bitch tits. That's where. Nah, you never heard that one? Bitch tits?
I love that you said that, and my face went, "What the?" You said, "AKA bitch."
Yeah, that's what they call them. That's what they call them. Yeah, and that's what you get when you abuse steroids. Your chest starts to cone out like a woman. So anyway,
so leads to why people like Anderson Silva would pop for dick pills, because their testosterone's low and they still need to pleasure their one.
Exactly.
Full circle.
Dick pills.
Okay.
Yeah. So Yeah, all of those things, all of those infractions, those transgressions, lead me to, in my mind, he's not worthy of being considered the best.
So
I
out.
mean, I guess skill wise, you could say, yeah, he's at the top of his game right now, and yeah, he could probably beat up anybody in the world right now. But it just because of all these things that have happened in the past, we don't know whether he's on anything right now or not.
I totally understand. But as the regulars go on and as they cut out things like TRT, you can't do TRT anymore. You can't do this, you can't do that. It keeps going on. He goes up a weight class and beats the Cyril Gain. Aston comes up another, you know, his recent fight beats Stipe Miocic. Ted, what was your thoughts on this fight? How did you think this was going to go, and what are your thoughts on how it went?
Yeah, that I mean that it went exactly as I thought it would go. I
Yeah,
mean, Stipe was, not in his prime. He had been inactive. I mean, I know Jon Jones has been inactive before the Cyril Gane fight, but Stipe had been inactive. Stipe's what, 40
but you can
now, I
also
think.
bring up GSP versus Michael Bisping, who was away for 4 years without fighting and retiring and going through this or that, moving up a weight class like we thought before. What's the difference between somebody like GSP and somebody like Stipe? Is it the mental mindset? Is it what was it for you that you thought Stipe lacked here uh, in
He,
comparison
he
to
just
somebody
he
like
just
GSP? Motivation?
hard to say exactly. Um, he just looked a little rusty out there, a little stiff. Um, he got some licks in on Jones. He hit him a few times, but yeah, he just when somebody just looks old,
Yeah.
he just looked old.
He
He
looked
looked.
like to be in Bellator.
I mean, yeah, he just he looked like a fighter who was past his prime,
But my
and
argument here is beating
yeah.
somebody like Stipe goes for his legacy. Beating somebody like Tom Aspinall, is that more for him or less for him? And then we're going to move on to our
Well,
last topic.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So beating Stipe, kind of that's a notch in the belt because, all right, if I remember right, like Stipe had never lost his title. Is that correct?
Stipe, oh wow. I don't think yeah, Stipe didn't lose his title. He was just away. Is that what was one? Because he was the heavyweight champ.
But then what did Jones have? Jones had a belt.
Yeah, against Gain. That was the interim title
No, but Aspinall has the interim title.
for light heavyweight.
What?
For so Tom Aspinall is light heavyweight champ.
No, no, no. That dude's a legit heavyweight. He's as big as Jon Jones, if not bigger.
No, he's the light heavyweight champ.
No, he's not. That's Pahea.
No, nope, that's even below that.
Dude, look it up.
Tom Aspinall is the okay. Holy shit.
He's dude. He's like
Interim
265.
heavyweight champ. No, you're fucking right. Holy shit. Yeah,
Gotta lay
you're
off
right,
the blue moon.
Ted.
Gotta lay off the whiskey.
Gotta lay off Blue Moon. Gotta lay off. Yeah, it's all the. Yeah,
All right.
gotta
So
lay off the
so
Blue Moon.
so so what did Jones have before he fought Stipe? What belt did he have? He had a belt.
Stipe Miocic. Let's go to his topology. That's what's confusing me right now. I know people are listening to the audio podcast yelling at their stereo
Oh,
right
I'm
now.
sure they are.
Okay,
I'm
so
sure they are.
he lost to Francis Ngannou, who left the UFC.
Okay, so that put
There
the
we
belt
go.
up.
There we go. That's it. Because
Okay.
Francis could not get an agreement for a
Right.
fight, and John
Right.
wanted to go up to heavyweight to fight this.
Yeah. So Ngannou leaves.
Ngannou leaves.
Well, but then Jon Jones got a belt when he beat Cyril Cyril Gane,
Cyril Gane. Yeah. So
right?
Stipe. Okay, so Stipe lost to Francis. So now he returns and lost to John. So Stipe lost his title to Francis.
Okay.
And the heavyweight
And then
title
and then
against
Ngannou
John
leaves.
and Gain was for the London heavyweight
They put the
title.
belt up. They put the
Yeah.
belt up. So okay, then what happened? Then they needed an interim champ because Jones got injured.
So let's go to Tom
That's
Aspinall.
what happened. Jones got injured, so they needed an interim champion, and so that's what Aspinall has, and he's since defended the interim belt, which is it's I think it's only been done one other time that an interim belt has actually been defended.
So I want to argue here. Okay. I mean, okay, let's go through Tom's record. His last couple of fights, he beat Curtis Blades via knockout round 1 at the 1 minute mark. Sergey Pavlovich, round 1. Marcin Tybura, round 1. He lost to Curtis Blades with a knee injury.
Yeah,
He
that
beat
was a fluke.
Alexander Volkov, arm lock, round 1. Sergey Spivak, round 1. Andrei Arlovsky, round 2. You know, that's a pretty.
Oh, that's a nice
record.
streak right there.
That's a really nice record right there. But also, Andrei Arlovsky thing, okay, proving ground. What do you call that? Not a bridge defender. What do you call that?
That's a gatekeeper.
What do they call it? Bridge defender?
That was great.
Gatekeeper.
That was great.
A bridge defender under the blue moon. Yeah. So then Volkov as well. Round one. Curtis Blades,
Yeah.
Pavlovich, Tybura, Volkov. Dana White says, and here's our last thing, Ted. Dana White dropped 2 big news stories for us. 2025. Ted, it's December. It's Monday, 11:08 p.m. here on the East Coast. December 16th, 2024. As we look into UFC 2025.
Right.
We got 2 big news articles. Dana White, Jon Jones versus Aspinall 2025. But Ted, let's end on this.
All right.
And we're going to keep everyone scratching their heads for the next one. What is this big news announcement that Dana White has where he says, and I quote for you, 2025, I've got something in the works right now. It'll drive you effers crazy. All you guys will be running around. I got something in the works that you'll never effing see coming for 2025 that literally started to come together last night. Ted, last 4 minutes here.
Yeah. So what is it? And okay, so let me just couch this by saying Dana White is a carnival barker. Okay, he's a PT Barnum. He's always going to talk about, oh, this is the greatest, that's the greatest. You know, whatever the latest thing is, whatever's coming down the pike, that's the greatest thing that's ever happened in the UFC. Okay, he's selling fights. He's in the fight business. That's what it's all about. You got to sell what's coming up. Okay, keep that in mind. But he has delivered many times, and I think this is the way that he's talking about this. It leads me to believe he's talking about something that's a little unusual, a little offbeat, and we've seen that with the Conor McGregor versus Mayweather fight.
UFC 100.
Right? Yeah. We've seen that with, do you remember James Toney, the boxer who came into the UFC? He begged Dana White for a fight, and Dana White said, okay, fine, you can fight Randy Couture. Right. So these are kind of offbeat, one-offs where you've got somebody from outside mixed martial arts coming in. And that's what I think is going to happen here. I think it's going to be Jake Paul. I don't know against whom, because what weight class would it be? Probably 205, because Jake Paul fought Mike Tyson, and they were both about 215, I think, each. 220 maybe. I think they were both about 220 or so. So I could see Jake Paul dropping down to 205, a little leaner, right? and so he's going to fight somebody in that division. It's not gonna be the champion, but it's gonna be somebody. Um,
That moves me.
that's what I think is gonna happen,
That
and it's gonna be on Netflix because they saw Dana White saw the numbers that the Jake Paul Mike Tyson fight did, and the numbers were just through the roof, stratospheric. So, and wasn't the UFC in talks with Netflix that possibly they were gonna do some things with
for
them?
such a long time, Ted, going a long time back. I remember I would go on Netflix, type UFC, and there I believe, call me out if I'm wrong, they were in talks with even having some fights on there or something like that. But Ted,
Hmm.
Jake Paul, at this point, he's beat Anderson Silva, Tyron Woodley, he's beat
Right,
Nate Diaz,
right.
he's
So
beat
so you
Mike
could
Perry,
now
Mike Tyson. Like,
everybody knows. Oh, and he beat that guy. Oh, no, I'm thinking of somebody else. But anyway, so we know that there's this rivalry between Dana White and Jake Paul. However, money solves everything. If they can get together and make enough money, they'll do it. They will. You know what I mean? They'll do it. They'll put that rivalry aside and say, let's put our heads together and make a boatload of money.
that will be the biggest thing
Because
in
he's the most
2025.
popular boxer out there. By far, Jake Paul is the most popular boxer out there right now.
Will you agree
So
with me that boxing was dead for a couple of years? I don't want to say, but Jake Paul for the UFC and boxing been the biggest plus for both of these opposites really combine, and this would be 2025's with all this viral media, all this cringe. Finally
mhm.
be like, all right, it's not cringe anymore. This guy may be actually worth it. Do you think, Ted, that he deserves this spot?
I mean, I think everybody would want to see it because not only has he been in a rivalry with Dana White, but he's beaten all these
Former.
MMA fighters. So you could build it up that way too. That he has no respect for the sport of MMA. He basically shits and spits on the sport. He thinks boxing is king. So we're back to that old rivalry of boxing versus
Yeah,
MMA. Uh,
boxing is for the everyday folk. MMA is for beer drinkers, as Mayweather once said.
yeah, and what's wrong with that? You know what I'm saying? There ain't nothing wrong with that. So, but anyway, yeah, this is the, I mean,
This is what
the
it
way Dana White's
is.
talking about it, I, I just think in my gut, I think that's what he's talking about.
And Ted, with that being said, it's been a wild year. And if that's the
Mm.
truth, 2025, we're in for it. And I hope to see you again on Evil
It's
Intoxicated
gonna be
because
a
it's
crazy
been
one.
9 years. 9 years. We're getting
Wow.
old. I got some gray beard and I still have my pet rats. But the other thing that I enjoy is doing the show with you. And I hope in
Ah,
2025 we can reconnect. Our fans deserve that. And I enjoy,
yeah.
Ted. This is my therapy. Before we sign off, I just want to thank you so much for joining me here
Nah.
again tonight, Ted. I really
Hey,
needed it, man. Like, it's been such a rough year. I've been trying to get back on my feet.
uh,
I've
well,
been
you're gonna do
working
it.
full time, and it's just been so hard. And this is what I don't want to tear up, but like this is what truly brings joy in my life. This is like what I try to explain to my grandmother on Thanksgiving. Like this is what makes me feel alive, Ted. And you were
Mm,
such a big part in that story of my journey here. I'm getting chills again. Uh,
yeah.
and as Eminem said, you just gotta lose yourself in the music the moment you want it, and something about throwing up your mother's spaghetti, something like that, right? So Ted, I want to
Yeah.
thank you so much.
Throw it against the wall, see what sticks. No,
Yeah,
but Eddie, yeah, I'll make a prediction for 2025. This is going to be your year.
yeah,
2025 is going to be your year, right? You're already into something here. You got more. You got bigger things ahead. You are. This is going to be a breakout year for you.
I really
Just
appreciate
gotta
that,
gotta
Ted.
stay focused, right? stay on your grind, and bigger things, better things are going to happen for you.
Ted,
Just
before
stay
we
focused.
sign off, you put in a lot of work. You just released a book on Amazon, which a lot of journalists
Yeah.
tune in here. A lot of people interested in journalism. Uh, a quick shout out for that before
Here,
you
let me show
sign
you.
off here.
Here we go. That's it. Saving the Beast. A recovering reporter reflects on America's broken media and how to fix it. So you can get that on Amazon, or if you don't like to do business with Amazon, you can get it on booksamillion.com. You can get it on barnesandnoble.com. Anywhere online, any online bookseller, it should be there. So yeah, this is something that is a culmination of 25 years as a newspaper reporter, mainly in the crime and emergency news. And I noticed that there were some things going on in the industry that really sucked, to put it plainly. It's what drove me away from it. I still have a passion for journalism, and that's why I wrote the book. But I saw that there were things going on in the industry with the way that journalism is being taught, the way that it's being practiced, where you got these news agencies that are just falling for hoaxes, and they're telling the American people what and how to think, like they think we're dumb or something. It's like, no, we have critical thinking. We can think for ourselves, thank you. And so that's all covered in the book. And also, I think, we'd like to have a media that we can trust to some degree. So if they wanted to turn things around, if they wanted to make things right, I offer some suggestions at the end of the book. So there it is.
Wow, Ted, as I said, you're the first MMA journalist I ever really had respect for. You're one of the OGs, and that's such an interesting story. And if you really want a perspective in somebody who's so true to the game, I grew up on Hunter S. Thompson. Ted, you are the Hunter S. Thompson of mixed martial arts. Whether you're getting into a car accident against the Amish mafia, oh my God, my rat is out of. My rat is
you're
out.
gonna get him.
But Ted, I gotta tell you, man. You are a legend. I appreciate it so much, and it's been a wild year, and we cannot wait for 2025.
Yeah,
guys,
it's gonna be another wild one.
Where can everybody find you on social media? You know what that is right here.
Yeah, I'm on X. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram, YouTube, even TikTok. So yeah, TEDCZECH. That's me, Ted Czech. Czech, like Czechoslovakia or the Czech Republic, I guess now it is. So yeah, pretty much all the major social media platforms, I'm on them. So yeah, look me up.
There you guys go. The infamous Ted Czech and Evil Eddie here on Evil Intoxicated. Do you guys agree? 2025, will it be Jake Paul inside the UFC? Let us know our social medias. With that being said, guys, white knuckles till the end. And remember, without evil, there's no purity. Behave yourselves.
See you, Eddie.